Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for NFHS Officials Consortium number 3. This is our third of 4 for the 23-24 school year. We're excited to have all of you with us tonight, and it looks like we have more officials than we have state association people on with us tonight, so we appreciate your participation and certainly welcome you here this evening. Austin Ardrey is our presenter tonight. He is from Runnin Ref, and he will let you know kind of what they're all about as he gets into his presentation. I'll turn it over to him, and at the end, we'll actually have an opportunity for Q&A. So please take notes, and if you think of something that you'd like to ask Austin at the end, feel free to unmute and ask at that time. But without further ado, I will turn it over to Austin.
All right, let me share screen. All right, here we go. We good? Can you see it all? Everybody can see? Cool. Okay. Well, hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in tonight. So I think everybody read the email and kind of knows what we're going to talk about. Fitness for officials is what we want to highlight. So you guys are special. The third team does not get enough credit for what you do. You are a valuable part of each game that you officiate. Shortstops have dedicated training, defensive backs have dedicated training, basketball players, they all have dedicated training, and now so do officials. So I wanted to lead in with that, and let's go ahead and dive in. So just a little bit about me. I want to make this about you as much as possible because it is about you, but I'll give you a little bit of background about me so you don't think just some random guys up here talking. I was a college strength and conditioning coach for 10 years. I moved all around the country, specializing in on-field movements, running mechanics, conditioning sessions, return to play from long and short-term injuries. I loved every bit of it, but life changed and took me on a different route, and I moved to Dallas, Texas, and now I am the CEO of a company called Runnin Ref, and we help sports officials with all of their in-game needs and all of their year-round training needs. So enough about me. Let's get to talking about you. All right. So like I mentioned, this was never the plan for me. The plan was never to move to Dallas and to start a business specializing in sports officials. I actually moved to Dallas for a long-term girlfriend. I was a little bit sick of all the moving around in college athletics. 2 years here, 3 years there, never any stability, missing out on family opportunities. And I also wanted to start a speed development business for youth, high school, and collegiate kids when they were in town. That's my love. I truly love running mechanics, looking at video, helping people with that. So I moved, and that was what I was going to do. I was 2 years into a business that was starting to grow. It was on-field training, and I loved every minute of it. There was nothing like it going on in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, believe it or not, in a big sports-bound, warm-weathered city. So that was my initial plan. The plan was never to, get involved with officials. Well, I got a phone call in January of 2021 from my college strength coach. He was the former head strength and conditioning coach for UNT, University of North Texas in Denton, so about 30 miles north of where I currently live. And he called me and he said, "Hey, I've got 2 college football officials. They want to get in touch with somebody about, learning running mechanics. I can't teach them. They officiate our games." He said, "Would you be interested in talking to them?" Because he knew about the business that I had, started and created, and I'd visit him a couple times and didn't. So I said, "Yeah, sure. I would love to chat with these guys." So they called me up. We had a great conversation, and we decided to meet in person. So when we decided to meet in person, these are actually pictures from our first training session. First off, I was on the college football sidelines for 10 years and didn't watch officials, obviously exchange pleasantries and, "Hey, I help you out with, bringing the defensive line coach back off of the sideline and making sure that all the players stay back so that, the officials could do their jobs, but you're watching the ball. You're worried about special teams." Everybody's last thought is the officials, as everybody here knows in all sports. So they started telling me about the ins and outs of what they do. And, their supervisor called them and said, "Hey, I need you guys to learn how to run better." And also they'd been fighting some injury bugs along the way as well. Calf strains, hamstring strains, knee pain, things of that nature. So, we get into it and we start talking more about their specific needs. And then we devise a training plan for that day based around all of those things. So what I wanted to do was take them through what would look like a simulated version of an on-field session for college football players. So We did some soft tissue work, just kind of some muscle stuff, get some blood flowing. They told me about where they had pain and stuff. I brought a lot of different tools for them. We go into a stationary warm-up, and I taught them some things that they had not done in a very long time, which we still hold true in our program today. We got up on our feet, went through a dynamic warm-up. I took them through some sprint drills, and that's where we really slowed down, and I started talking through these things. And then I devised a conditioning session specifically for them. So what we did was, we made this a multi-directional conditioning session. And I came up with this years ago through different programs, but also through some return to play stuff, just backing off of movements and making them a little bit easier for them. But also the multi-directional nature of what a sports official has to do was very, very important as well. So we did that, and we manipulated the rest time between reps to that of which they would see in an up-tempo offense between plays in a college football season. So you're talking very quick turnaround from multi-directional movements. We worked it in sets, just like would be series on the field. And we were there for every bit of 2.5 hours. These guys just absolutely loved the session. We could not stop talking. So we decided to keep meeting up, and, lo and behold, we continued to meet up, and I started helping them problem solve. And, this became a thing where we were exchanging text messages year round. I started helping them with some strength training stuff, and, getting into this, we didn't know what was going to happen, but so, that's the story of how Runnin Ref came about. And that's what, we're here to help all sports officials with. So what does it take to officiate? There's a lot of things that we could put into this, and there's so many technical, tactical things. But if we start talking from the fitness side of things, what does it take to officiate? Well, the first one would be a high level of fitness or conditioning, right? The thing that people don't understand, and I had a great conversation with an official the other day, was that, like, hey, the defensive back, he's going to play probably a third of the game. He may or may not play special teams. He may not play every single down. An official's on the field or the court the entire game. You don't get a break, a little bit at halftime here and there, but so an official has to be in very, very good shape, in my opinion. You also have to be able to move well in all directions. I think it goes without saying that, the multi-directional nature of what a sports official does. You have to be able to shuffle. You have to be able to backpedal. You have to be in the correct place at the correct time to keep up with the play and the speed of all these athletes these days. Speed training is on the forefront for most athletes in most games these days. Even baseball players, you're seeing more stolen bases. Center fielders that can absolutely fly. Defensive backs, the 40-yard dash puts such a prominence. You watch these NBA guys run up and down the court, they can really move. So I think it's very, very important for an official to be able to move as well. And then availability. Everybody's probably heard this before. Availability is the best ability. You don't want to have to call an assigner or a supervisor or somebody and say, hey, literally, I pulled a hamstring, I cannot walk. Those are things that we want to teach you to be able to safeguard yourself from and to stay away from as well. So recently we ran a couple questionnaires, and we asked officials, right? We said, what do you want? What do you see in this? What can we help you with? Okay. So, one of the first questions is, what do you strive to improve at on the court or on the field? And an astounding number, 62% of all the people that answered this, said that their conditioning level, they want to be in great shape. We had some good numbers for running technique, because most officials, when you bring it up to them, realize, yeah, that is important. And then reduce minor injuries. 50% of everybody said, hey, this is a big deal as well. Another big question that we wanted to ask is, what would you like to see in a fitness program that's developed for you? Not for a CrossFitter, not for the general population, not for you and your wife to do on Sunday mornings together, but what would you like to see if it's specific for you? And, once again, 62% of all those officials said that conditioning that will help me in game. So they want something that will make them a better official. The other thing, a great strength training program, something that's well-rounded, and that really ties into, you can see here at the bottom, injury prevention exercises. Those two are married together. One is not more important than the other. Good strength training is injury prevention, and injury prevention is also strength training. Okay, so we'll dive into that a little bit more. And then a little bit more than half of all officials also said running technique drills. They would really like to see that as well. Okay, so this came from officials, and this is the information that we got from everybody that took our survey. So you ask, okay, that sounds great, but what should an official do for training? So we'll dive into each one of these, but initially prep work. So these things don't have to be done every day, but if you do them often enough, you can safeguard yourself from some injuries. You can make yourself feel better, but they're targeted areas too that you're preparing for what you need to do ahead. proper warm-up is key. The majority, and we've read some specific research papers, we've asked many officiating groups, a lot of officials believe that they are getting injured sometimes because of lack of a proper warm-up. Okay, but what should a warm-up look like? Running drills. And you can see Runnin Ref, we call these running drills. So they're just technical drills that aid in your warm-up, because every official runs at some point during the course of a game or a match. And they're also very specific to not only the actions that you do, but the speed of movement that you will go through as well, which are really important to understand. Specific conditioning, I do not believe just going and logging miles and miles and miles at a time is very specific to what you're doing as an official. And there's many things that go into that. I have to stop, start, change directions. All of that adds up. The specific movements that I need to do on the field of the court are very important as well. And then strength training. It is important. That doesn't mean we need to train like a CrossFitter, a power lifter, an Olympic weightlifter. All those are good elements that make up a training program, but they're not a strength training program in their own. Okay, there's a lot of other things that you may need, or assistance you may need from previous injuries, or potentially age, or equipment available. So there's a lot of things that go into the strength training piece. So what do we typically see in a warm-up? So I've got some interactive stuff in here for you as well. But typically, this is what you see in a warm-up. People will sit down, they'll go through their foam rolling exercises, and this guy's actually hitting some good spots, okay? Nothing wrong with that. We'll go in, I'll show you in this next video what you can do as opposed to the foam roller, but this is typically what you see. The goal of the foam roller is to get some blood flowing and to start, pushing some blood around. Now, this stuff, these are officials. I'm not sure what some of these movements are. I also hope that none of you on this call are these officials either, but they're trying, they're doing something that they believe is what's best, and that's okay. I'm not here to make fun of anybody, but I do want to showcase what is typically found, what is typically seen, and then I want to debunk and tell you why there's some things that you could do better for yourself, okay? There's just no direction in some of these. It's kind of like, oh, I'm just moving around, I'm doing a lot. And this warm-up actually was a full YouTube video that I cut these clips from. This was about a 20-minute video what these people were going through. I think you can get straight to the nuts and bolts of it. You can cut the fluff and you can get what you need, because especially a lot of officials that show up and have to drive to the game site right away, you may not have 20 minutes for that specifically. You might have meetings or something to do otherwise. So it needs to be very direct. It needs to be concise and to the point. I need to get what I want out of the warm-up and not waste a lot of time. Okay, so we started with the prep work. So the previous video had a foam roller in it, okay? I personally think a foam roller is okay, but I don't think it's hard enough of an implement to really get down into the muscle. And we could honestly even go further than that. That's topic for another day. So I'll play this video. These are tools that I would have in my travel bag. These are small implements, and I'll loop this video back a second time so you can see some of these. But the spots that I'm hitting are very targeted spots. The implements that I'm using can pack in a travel bag easily, but I'm trying to hit certain joints and certain muscles that I'm going to really use over the course of a game or a match. Okay, so what you saw was a golf ball, complete game changer for your feet. Even if you don't have a game or a match, that can serve you well in so many ways. If you don't know, a quarter of the bones in your body are in your feet. So take care of your feet as an official. And we'll go cover that a little bit more in depth later, some of the calf and Achilles stuff. But golf ball to the feet, softball, baseball, lacrosse ball, wonderful for what you're going to see is the calves and the hip flexors in a second. Anybody with shin splints, you have muscles on the front side of your shins. Upper back here from sitting in a car, poor posture, stuff like that. Open up your upper back, just loosen up your entire body. Softball and the hip flexor is a game changer too. That is a hamstring cheat code right there. So if you sit a lot at work, this one hurts a ton in your glutes. So anyway, those are some of the implements. Like I said, they're a lot harder. So they get down into the muscle a little bit deeper, and they really serve you a better purpose than just a soft, easy foam rolling and then some scoops. Okay. All right. So as we move on, in my opinion, I think that stationary prep is good, because the goal of your warm up is to go from 0 to 100, which is game time. So I'm trying to do everything within that warm up time period to close the gap between being sedentary, being at 0, being shut down and shut off, not activated, to fully warmed up, my blood flowing, my heart rate's going. I really want to be prepped and ready. So start with some soft tissue prep. That shouldn't take you more than 3 to 5 minutes. And if you don't need a certain spot on that day, you don't have to do it. Then I would move into some stationary stuff. Stationary doesn't have to mean static or dynamic. There's a little bit of both. An old school hamstring stretch, wonderful. But now we get into some more dynamic stuff. So you'll see some of the stuff in officials fight, space sometimes. Well, all of this stuff is in a very concise, confined space, and I'm hitting all of my target spots that I need to. So I'm hitting hip flexors, groins. Here you see glutes, hips. I'm getting a little bit of low back and lat stretch out of this exercise right here. But all of this is very, very important stuff to start getting on my feet and moving, open up the joints that are necessary for movement, and really just prepare my body for the next step. Okay, so it's just like anything else. Step one leads to step two, leads to step three. It's a sequential order, and I think that it really, really does matter over the course of building your warm up out. Okay, so after the stationary piece, now once again we're starting to pick up more speed. So I start at 0, and I want to gradually pick up speed. So what you're going to see right here in these dynamic warm ups are not intense movements that you can't do anywhere. You need 10 to 20 yards, 10 to 20 meters, and you can go through these, and these won't take you another 3 minutes, especially once you know them. So it's going to be some multi-directional movements once again. So start with just some easy skipping. Everybody has done this at any point in their life, regardless of injury history, different stuff. These are easy, lower intensity movements, but we are starting to pick up the pace. Backwards running, incredible. Now I'm moving in a different direction. I've got to throw in some multi-directional stuff as well. But all of these are just great pieces to add in. If I know that I need to move sideways, I've got to start loosening up my groins and my hips to do so. So now you can start to see a flow of all the movements and how they could possibly prepare me for the game and what I need to do. Once again, I do want to highlight this exercise actually, because we will not talk about it more than likely again in this, unless somebody has a question. Anybody that deals with calf, ankle, Achilles prep, I would personally not go through a game without doing this. It's once again low intensity. You can make it higher and higher intensity, but I know a lot of officials struggle with Achilles tendonitis and different stuff like that. This is truly preparing you from the knee down. I wouldn't personally do a field or movement session without something like this, just knowing some of the things that I know about how impactful it is and how easy to implement it is as well. You could do it in place if you don't want people to see you do that on the field, if you will. Okay. Not everybody wants to see Dak Prescott doing what he does on the field as well. Sorry for our Cowboys fans. Okay. So let's move on to running mechanics. Okay. So this is one thing that officials asked about. This is one thing that I see. This is probably when new officials, so in Dallas, we host a free session one time per month for any official. So it doesn't matter if you officiate lacrosse, rugby, football, soccer, basketball. We've had basketball officials come out there and they're just in turf shoes. Our football guys typically are wearing turfs, but a couple of them have brought out cleats before. The number one thing that I see from these officials, I don't think that they're probably in tip-top shape when they come out for various reasons potentially, but I see poor running mechanics as a big pitfall. So poor running mechanics lead me into a lot of different issues. Okay. So first off, what you see here is this foot actually striking out in front of the body. So this is what you typically see when somebody does a ton of jogging. It's just a big, long, loopy swing, and it's not very efficient, first off. So it's now reducing the amount of work, or it's increasing the amount of work that I actually have to do. So I'm actually having to work harder. It's setting me up for injuries, because what you're going to see here, this person's heels are going to strike the ground out in front of their body. It's actually going to put a lot of strain on that hamstring. Okay. So it's putting stress and strain on tendons, structures, ligaments, muscles that shouldn't be supporting that. It's just not an efficient body position to safeguard yourself from some of these injuries. So what you see in poor running mechanics are those two things first off, but also you guys get judged on everything you do, whether it's warranted or not. People are taking notice, your supervisors, fans in the stands, the players. So poor running mechanics, in my opinion, is a big deal, and it can lead into a great warm-up if you do some of these things effectively as well. So let's take a look at what proper running mechanics should look like. So here's a great example. Now, the figure 4 is more than optimal. It's on the above average side of things here, but this is what we should be looking for. Okay, so as opposed to the foot striking out in front of my body, you can see the difference in body position. Now, what we should actually see, we're striking the ground at the right spot at the right time. So the middle third of my shoe should be hitting the ground at this point during running. We'll talk about the balls of the feet versus the sole of the shoe in a couple slides. I should be able to draw a straight line up through my knees and up through my hips. Good. So check that box. And now I make a figure 4 position, because the swing leg, to keep it really, really simple, We talked about a big, long backswing from this leg. It's not very efficient. It's a long time to get that leg back through. This is a much tighter sequence. You can see the heel gets closer to the butt. And what that does is it brings that swing leg, so the right knee in front of the left knee slightly, okay? That is a very ideal position. So this athlete right here is in a very safe position to reduce the risk of injury. He's also in a position where he's very, very efficient. So now over the course of this long game where you're out there for an hour and a half or whatever the case may be, now you're much more efficient, so you can save energy. And we hope that, by the end of the game or the end of the match that you're like, hey, that was a breeze. I'm ready to go into overtime if we had to. So that's the main reasons why running mechanics are so vital to you as an official. So we just touched on them a little bit, but why are running mechanics important? Reduce the risk for injury. I want to be able to put my limbs and my feet in the right spot at the right time, so that my body can operate as a system. It can work together. Makes me more economical. We already touched on it. It's going to help me save energy over the course of a game or a match. And then improved speed is a big one too. And I don't think that a lot of officials probably think about this. Like, hey, I don't want to be, Usain Bolt. Okay, that's fair enough. But the amount of officials, that we've spoken to, soccer is a good example because of the fitness test parameters that a soccer official has. There's various officials that are saying, hey, what can I do to make sure I pass my test? Well, improved speed makes everything easier. So here's a great way to think about it. You have this fitness test that's based on for soccer. If I can run it at a faster pace than you, if we're both in equivalent shape, but if I can run my segment faster than you can, I can actually run it at a little slower speed and save energy. That's a concept called speed reserve. I have some left in the tank because I have improved speed. In proper running mechanics help you out quite a bit, let alone keeping up with the play, being in the right spot at the right time. I just think there's endless benefits to being an efficient mover. Okay, so here's kind of what some of these things look like. I'm talking about drills a lot. So we coin our drills referee running drills. They are sprint technique drills that we try to really teach, make simple. They're progressive. You can do them on a field, on a court. You need something sturdy. You need open space. They're very, very easy to implement. They take a little bit of practice. They take a little bit of intent. But it's like anything else. It's a skill. If you want to be better at it, you got to practice it over and over and over. But I mean, if you could do it in I don't know where the music came from. Sorry about that. There was your rap music there, Dana. But to get good at any skill, you have to practice it. Okay, but your practice could come before the game. It's specific to your warm up, as we already mentioned. There's another episode of practice. I can use these referee running drills on an active recovery day. They're very specific to the things that just made me sore, tight, and restricted. I can also use them prior to my movement session. So, within our program, obviously, these are a part of your workout. So with that being said, they hold so much value, and you can do them in such a variety of ways. So see if I can click to the next slide here. So we have created a progressive guide for these. Okay, it's about a 20-page document. It is completely free. It lists out some of the benefits to each exercise. It lists them in progressive order. We do have it on our email list. So if you go over to runninref.com and you get signed up for our email list, we try to provide officials with as much free information as we can. Every Saturday we come out with something new. Sometimes it's just free workouts for you, game day workouts, recovery type of stuff. But this is one that if you get on that list, it's automatically sent to you as soon as you sign up. So we created it for you. We want it to benefit you. And if for any other reason, if you just want to reach out to me directly, I will be more than happy to send it to you as well. But that is a gift from us to you. Okay, so looks like I got my animations wrong here, so bear with me. Now let's get into a little bit of conditioning and fitness. Okay, so what are the goals of conditioning? The goals of conditioning or fitness is to make sure that we're prepared for game day, prepared for the match, or to be on the court. So fitness is very specific. And when I say that, the next one that was supposed to pop up is, what is a fun run? We talk to many officials that tell us what they've done forever, right? They've gone to Orange Theory, or CrossFit gets my heart rate up and I have to run a little bit, or hey, I just want to go out for a run a couple times a week. And we see a lot of the wristwatch data, the Garmin data from officials that are just logging miles a couple times a week. That's great for general and specific training, but it's not specific to you as an official. So I'm not sure what a fun run is, but that sounds like more fun to me than it does specific goal-oriented training. Okay. And straight line to game like. So that's what we want to build out throughout the course of the year. And we want officials to know that when your season ends and you've officiated an entire basketball season, you're tired, you're sore, you need a little bit of a break. That's wonderful. When you get started back again, it's a little bit easier to cut out some of the decelerations and just running shuttles all the time, stopping, starting. Those things are a little bit more challenging on your body. They're a little bit harder to recover from. So I think a good thing to keep in mind would be to keep everything straight line at the beginning. But as you get closer and closer to your in season or some of the camps that you need to work and some of the things that you need to be in shape for, it's got to get more specific. So for our, our football officials, some of the things that we challenge them with is, to start adding, shuffles for time and zigzag cuts. They run on S's. They do some different movements that would be more similar to what they would do in game, because we've got to prepare them for game day. That's the goal of conditioning. That's the goal of fitness, is to prepare you for what you will do during the game. Once again, my animations are wrong. I'm sorry, everybody. But in-season training. So this is a big deal too. You don't just train for 6 months hard and then forget about it and you just rest and recover all season. No, you're going to go backwards. Now, there's a bandwidth to that. We don't want to train at the same level, but we still need to train. We need to make sure it's on the correct days, the correct volume, the correct intensity, all of those things. But it's still important. Your in-season training truly, truly is. So what you need to know about in-season time period, though, is that the game should take care of the volume. And for our soccer officials, I think that it couldn't be more true for you, because some of you may have one game a week. Some of you may have 6 to 7. And I know some state associations are trying to do some things to take care of their officials and not overload them and stuff like that. And I think obviously the more officials that we continue to grow all over the country, it's going to help. But let the game take care of the volume in season. So you've already ran roughly 5 to 7 miles in one game, let alone an entire weekend. You don't need to come back on Monday or Tuesday and just knock out another 5 to 7 mile run. That defeats the purpose of your recovery and prepping. Once again, you're just continuing to beat yourself down over and over and over. So let the game take care of some of that volume and that specific. So in season, I don't believe you need as much conditioning as maybe what you might think. Intensity is what most officials lack. So forms of intensity would be, heavier strength training. And I'm not by any means saying, hey, 1 rep max deadlifts, but 3 sets of 10 goblet squats with a 15-pound dumbbell might not be doing as much as I think it is. Okay. Or the speed of movement, or, plyometric training, such as weighted jumps, something of that nature. So intensity is what most officials don't get. So my advice to you is find some way to incorporate that. So full speed sprints doesn't have to be a lot, but you need to make sure that your body is once again prepared to operate at that speed. Hitting a couple sets of some heavier strength training sets would be very, very valuable for you as well. And then, the last thing is obviously take care of your body, and it will take care of you. We talked about that a little bit in the prep work, and all of those preparatory exercises I can use also with recovery methods as well. And I don't think we're going to cover it today. If somebody has a question in Q&A, I would love to go through this more in depth. But the pool is my favorite form of active recovery for any of you that are beat up, super sore, super tired, maybe on the brink of pulling, tweaking something, you're not sure what to do. Get into a pool in a hotel when you're traveling to your games. Hopefully it's warm enough. Maybe your gym has one. The pool can literally be your best friend and a lifesaver. Okay, so no weak links. We kind of touched on strength training just a little bit, but it is extremely important for you as an official. Now, just keep in mind, it is supplemental to the field work. So in my opinion, once again, we're preparing you to be an official. I know everybody, has their own ideas of strength training. If you really like to bench press, throw some extra bench press in. That's wonderful. But just remember, the field work is the most important. Everything else is supplemental and should assist you with being a better official on the field or on the court. It's meant to bulletproof you, right? So we're trying to choose exercises that build a total body and that make us more resilient, so we can stay away from some hamstring issues or some of these Achilles tendonitis issues that are just nagging over and over, or potentially to repair some previous trauma from a sprained ankle or something of that nature. Patella tendonitis is another big one that I hear more and more. I talked to a football official today from Georgia, and he said, man, my knees have literally been killing me for years. And I just, at some point, I loosen up and enough that it's almost like the pain goes away and I deal with it. So remember, that's what strength training should do. It should bulletproof you from some of these things. And then look in the park. I continue to hear this more and more. I'm not positive if this is a newer concept within officiating, but the more supervisors and assigners that I'm personally meeting, they're whether we like it or not, you are judged on how you look by the fans, by everybody. Just the athletic presence that an official can have could go a long ways in your career as well. Okay, so typical training. Let's take out some videos. Once again, I've never been here to make fun of anybody, hurt anybody's feelings, but this is some of the things that we typically do see in training, okay? Once again, as we talked about the prep work, his feet are moving really fast. It looks really cool. It looks like we're getting a lot done, but we're not accomplishing any true goals. I'm not increasing my speed. I'm not increasing my mobility or flexibility. It's more or less undirected training is what it is. So if you want to do some of this stuff on a Sunday, just hanging out in a group training class, something like that, that's wonderful. But keep in mind, it's not directed towards you as an official. And honestly, that's a great exercise until that gets a little dangerous. There's better ways to go about balance training. But typically, those are kind of some of the things that people would see and do within a training program. Okay. So just keep in mind, it's got to be direct and it's got to be important. So in my opinion, what should training look like? This is a little bit more of an all-encompassing video, but you're going to see a ton of elements, and this should look very, very direct. It should have a lot of, things to showcase here to you, right? So we're moving in all directions. We're doing some great prep work. That was from one of our sessions here in Dallas. That's an acting official. He's working hard on his running drills. I love it when people send me these videos. But now we're just working on things that are very direct. I'm working on fitness. I'm working on strength training that's going to make me a better official. It's not for glitz and glamour. It's not for Instagram. It's not for, all of those things, which are wonderful too. But just keep in mind what you're training for. It's to be specific. And some of these are great examples, and maybe you've done some of these, maybe you have not before, but these exercises, a bench press doesn't have to be part of your repertoire. Deadlifting, back squatting don't have to be. Now, the whole concept of those exercises is to drive up strength and to become stronger in general, but you don't have to do barbell training. There's some great things you can do with dumbbells. There's some alternate forms of conditioning, as you can see right here as well. These type of things are supposed to aid you in becoming the best official that you can possibly be. So I hope this is a good glimpse of maybe, some variety and some different things that you could get throughout a training program as well. We are going to hit on that one here in just a second. But you can see that some of these things look more about like what training should look like, okay? Okay, so let's pivot. Most common injuries seen with officials. These are the ones that I hear about the most. We do hear about some patella knee issues frequently, but hamstring strains, groins, and the Achilles, tendonitis specifically, I have not personally met too many officials with ruptures. I hope nobody on this call has. I really hate that for you, but it is a debilitating injury. And I do not want to take lightly on the hamstring or the groins. Those can be nagging and they can keep you out of games. Everybody has probably gotten sore, tired. But the Achilles is the one that I really want to highlight because me personally, it's an Achilles and a bicep for me that terrifies me. Now I do, a little bit different training as I'm not training to be an official, but the Achilles is the most often seen spot that I talk to officials about and they tell me about. Okay. So typically these Achilles injuries happen during a sudden explosive movement. So think of the takeoff from a sprint. Everybody that keeps up with basketball will probably remember Kevin Durant whenever he tore his Achilles. He made a move one way, he stopped, he planted, he took off. And I was talking to a supervisor in a football conference last year, and he just could not stop talking about Achilles. And I actually did not ask him if he had previously had an injury, but he said every official that we have that comes up with an Achilles, it's when they kind of slow down and we start to take off again. And I was like, yeah, because the mechanism that's happening is it's a rapid stretch, and we have to be prepared to do that movement. That's why I think that some of the running drills and the full speed sprinting may not seem so important, but it's critical for you as well. It could be a product of poor foot function and running mechanics. So once again, I'm trying to tie all these things in together, but I'm trying to give you the most information that I possibly can out of this and let you know that your running mechanics affect you in more ways than just what people see. It's actually what you feel and what happens throughout your body as well. Okay. And then, pay attention to your shoe wear. We could go into that on Q&A and stuff like that, but in a short time frame here, what I would tell you is be careful with what you put on your feet. If I'm an athlete, I'm not personally going to put slides on. Once again, we'll go into that. That's a little bit more long-winded but you want to find shoe wear that puts your foot in the most neutral position possible. So a lot of people have flat feet. A good amount of people also have high arches. There's not a ton of people that have just a great neutral foot. And when I say neutral foot, I mean the big toe, the pinky toe, and the heel bone all attack into the ground at the same time. Okay. So that puts me at a neutral arch position within my foot. You want to stay away from shoes that put you into extremes one way or another. Okay. So just keep that in mind when you're looking for shoe wear. And I think you can help yourself out with some of these, small little things here and there. Okay. So here's something that's very, very important to know. Here's a good graphic. You do have more than one calf muscle. It all attaches to your Achilles tendon down at the bottom at a bone called your calcaneus. Now, the muscle tendon unit, all that means is the two calf muscles are put together. When you run at 8 meters per second or greater, that's more than a jog. Okay, that's not a full speed sprint yet, but that is more than a jog, 8 meters per second. That gastroc soleus region, Achilles tie-in, is responsible for 75% of the work being done to run at that speed. So in this day and age, we spend all this time on the hips, the hamstrings, the glutes, the quads, the torso. That is all good and well. That stuff is important, and I cannot state that enough. But we forget about what happens on the ground. Your foot is the first thing to contact the ground. A quarter of the bones in your body are in your feet, right? We kind of already touched on that. So I cannot state enough how important training this area is, okay? And I told you about a video that was playing earlier that we would kind of get back to, but how do you train this, okay? An isometric muscle contraction just means that it's not lengthening or shortening. It's actually just being still, but there's a contraction happening, okay? So there's no movement going on. And you saw a video, I was on a standing calf machine and I was just holding a weight. So it was a standing calf raise and I was just holding the weight. That's how you want to train this. All of those muscle actions matter, but all of the impact is at that point within the muscle contraction. It goes eccentric, isometric, concentric. That's how your muscles work, okay? And that's how we want to train this, is isometrically for the most part. So calf raises do not do the same thing. You can see this guy's on a Smith machine. I've actually recently found a way to put a barbell up against the rack in standing calf machines, Smith machines. Those are all wonderful, wonderful options, but the benefits to this type of exercise are endless. I can't state it enough. If you need any assistance with this or any help, or you're like, hey, I need to know more, like just reach out to me, please. I'd be more than happy to have a longer conversation about this, as you can see that it matters to me. Okay, so we went through all that. We're going to start getting to some special stuff here for you guys, but wanted to give everybody just a short, quick view of what it looks within a Runnin Ref training program. So days are listed. We wanted to make training as simple, effective, and easy as possible for officials. We've given options. We've included demo videos, text descriptions. We want you to just go in, train. This be simple for you, and you can get better, and you can get back to your family. You can get back to officiating, all the rule study and film review that you need to do as well. So we wanted to give you a snapshot of what that looks like and how easy we're trying to make all of this for you. Okay. Now here's the fun part. So we talked to Dana and we wanted to give a giveaway to anybody that sees this or is part of this. The first 5 officials, we have created a code for you. NFHS will give you a free month of our Runnin Ref training program. We would just love in return some feedback from you. Hey, what do you think? This is specific to officials. I would tell my friends about it. I think you got some work to do, whatever the case may be, but screenshot this, take a picture of this. It's very, very simple. You go to our website, you click on your sport, you enter that code, and it's for you. It's free. You can cancel it at any time. There's no ands, if, buts about it, but that was something special we wanted to do for you. We don't do this stuff very often, so we wanted to prioritize that. The first 5 officials, it is yours. If you were part of an association, we have began to work with associations in various ways. I got back from Tennessee a few weeks ago. We would love to work with your association. My email is attached there on the bottom, austin@runninref.com. Reach out to me. Our goal is to help as many officials as we can become better and better officials from the fitness side of things. So if there's a way that we can get in touch with your association and you need help from us, please do not hesitate to reach out. And anytime you need anything from us, we try to be as educational as possible. Okay. So, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, we do things on those daily. And I always try to give variety. I try to cover recovery, running mechanics. Every now and then we do something that's a little more lighthearted and funny. Sometimes it's a little more science-based and we're really getting into it, but strength training, even upper body type of stuff. I've been covering some shoulder stuff a lot recently, just because some people have asked about it. So we've covered some conditioning stuff. So if there's anything you want to see, anything you're curious about, I would love to help you. And if I don't know it, I'll be the first one to tell you, hey, it's actually something I've never really known a whole lot about, or hey, I do have somebody that can help me with this, and then I will be able to help you as well. So anytime you want to reach out, my email's open. We check our social media pretty frequently. So once again, we are here to help you. And if there's anything we can do, feel free to reach out. So with all that being said, Dana, I have no idea if that was fast or slow. I don't know where we're at, but
No, that
if
was
you're
good.
ready for questions, I am ready for questions.
You were spot on at 7:11, so that was perfect.
Wow, look at you.
Yeah, look at that. So at this time, we will open it up. If you've got a question for Austin, feel free to unmute yourself. If you have ability to be on camera, we'd love to see your face as well. So feel free to unmute and ask Austin anything. And before we go there, just thank you so much for attending tonight. And you'll receive a recording of this presentation within the next couple of days. So that way, if you want to look back at anything, you'll be able to. And of course, we'll also provide everybody Austin's contact information if you didn't catch that on his slides. So any questions for Austin?
I'm actually not positive where the chat function may or may not be.
It's at I can see it, but nobody's typing anything. You can also type it in the chat if you're shy, but I've never met a shy person.
Yeah, there's not a lot.
No,
we usually have some really good conversations.
it would be difficult to do your job if you're shy as an official. But any questions? Oh, Herman's got his camera on.
Maybe.
There he
Yeah.
goes.
Can
Hi,
you hear me?
Herman.
Hi, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
Fine, thank you. I didn't have any questions, but I mean it's a great presentation. When I first started officiating, I went to some camps, and that was some of the same thing that they taught us to do, to loosen up well before you get on the field or on the court.
Yeah, it's super, super important. The athletes do it, and we always preach, officials are athletes. So you got to do the same things, or hopefully even better. Hopefully y'all are, some of the players are just looking at y'all like, man, we need to be doing that.
That's for those younger officials.
Yeah, that's for everybody.
Yeah, that's true.
And I appreciate Austin going over the importance of the off-season conditioning, because all of my years that I was in a state office, most of the injuries would occur early in the season or very late in the season. So it was either lack of preparation leading into the season or overuse at the end of the year. So it was good that you covered kind of both of those and the importance of if your basketball season starts in October, that's probably not when you want to start getting ready. So that was usually the issue.
Yeah, no doubt. There's actually quite a bit of NFL research, and it started with the lockout period years ago. But there's still more and more research every year that's coming out, and the injuries in training camp and how they happen, right? Because the NFL schedule is a little bit different, and I think performance-wise, they're doing a lot of phenomenal things. I've got a few friends that are telling me a little bit more about what they're doing than they should possibly, but they the injuries, if they can kind of get guys through training camp and the second preseason game without the guys that are, Aaron Rodgers may not play his preseason game next year, right? But everybody else, they see a lot less throughout the year. But it's those first 2 to 3 weeks. The first 21 days is kind of what they've marked. And that's where all the injuries spike at, So, yeah, the preseason prep is a big deal. There's not 2 weeks till the season. Let's hit the trail, man. Those days are over.
A little too late to get started at that point.
Yeah, definitely.
Any other questions or comments for Austin? And certainly if you think of something after the fact, feel free to email me and I'll pass it on to Austin, or you can email him directly. If there aren't.
Yes, I have one question.
All right. Yes, sir.
For arch supports, what's your ideal thought process on arch support in your using for your feet?
Yeah, I think they're okay. I think they definitely serve a purpose. Okay. So, and when I say that, I don't mean to dance around it, but I think when you start to train your feet, your ankles, your calf, Achilles, the correct way, you can actually kind of build your own arch by building your body back up in the correct way. Okay. But if you have not done that yet and you need some short-term support, I think absolutely an arch support would be great. Just keep in mind that it depends on what shoe you put it in once again, right? Because if I add an arch support because I think I need it, and very well you don't want it to once again put you in extreme positions, because now what we're seeing is this fifth metatarsal fracture in people's feet, and it's very common in the NFL and in college football right now. But the arch gets so high now, all the pressure's on the outside of that foot, and those bones get really small, right? So those Jones fractures in some guys' careers in the NFL. So and I'm sure basketball the same. I just don't quite hear about it as much. I don't remember the Derrick Rose incident years ago, but yeah, I think if you need them, yes, just try to see if you can get it in the most neutral position that you can with your foot, and you'll know what that means. If your hips and your knees are like going in different directions, it's too too high or too low. So you'll have an idea.
Okay, thank you. One other question. So
Yeah.
the shoes that you're using to train with and the shoes that you're using to actually ref with are usually two different variations. So are you looking to get the shoes that are in the same field area, or are you advising two different brands for a brand for training and a different brand potentially for actually working games?
Yeah, I think both of those could be yes questions. So yes, first, if you can afford and want to buy a couple different pair of shoes. I mean, for strength training, I would specifically wear something that's a lot flatter and stable, right? Because I want something that I can be stable and push from, right? For the lower body specifically. Now, that same shoe, we'll just say, for example, the Chuck Taylor. Everybody's probably seen powerlifters wear those before. I don't have any issues with that. But now I go and want to do a field conditioning session or a court conditioning session. That's not an ideal form of shoe wear. So if I can only pick one pair of shoes, I know that I'm going to log a lot of volume on those in game. I'm going to pick the best shoe for me in game. But if I can start to afford more shoes, yes, I'm going to use something that's a little more specific to that type of training. If I know that I need a specific shoe for a lot of running, movement-based stuff, changing directions, I want a different shoe probably. But if at all possible, I'd like the base of it to look similar to what I would use in game if possible. You know what I mean? Everybody knows that Air Maxes are not good for them. I wear them too. I have a pair on right now as we speak, but I'm also here presenting with you and I'm not getting ready to run. So, yeah, I think definitely if you can afford it, there should be some specialized shoes. But, if you're like, hey, I just want one pair of shoes, when they wear out, I'll go again, get the best shoe that neutralizes that arch and gives you the most support at the same time to train and do all of your things with. So, sorry, I didn't mean to make that too long-winded, but there's a lot to unpack there.
Okay, understood.
Great questions. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Any other questions for Ardrey, for Austin? Sorry, I'm going by your last name now all of a sudden, but for Austin. Right. Well, we'll go ahead and call it a night. It's 7:20 Eastern time. But again, thank you everybody for your time and attention. Austin, thank you so much for your presentation. It was very helpful and very on point. I'm looking forward to sharing this out with our state associations and getting it posted for other officials to see and share. But they won't be the first 5, so they're not going to get the code. So our first
right.
5 were from this pool, I'm sure. But thank you so much for your help this evening and for your presentation. And we look forward to hearing more from you as we move toward the future. So thank you for everything, and everybody have a great rest of your night. And if you're in season, have a good rest of your season. If you're just starting baseball, softball, track, have a great season coming up and a great off season as well. So good luck with everything. And if there's anything that NFHS can do to be a resource to you, please feel free to reach out. Everybody have a great night.